Okay, let's talk about
All right, the first item on the agenda, I'm calling this meeting to order. The first item, is the minutes of September 7th. Anybody have any changes or additions to those minutes? I've been looking through those. No changes?
No change.
Thank you, Clerk Ward. The next item on the agenda is the committee appointments and updates. Tonight, we have 4 of those, and I see Ms. Fields is here. If you want to introduce yourself and talk about your role, just come up to the seat, and whatever you want to say or not say is fine. And if after you're finished, if any of the committee members have any questions or comments, we'll be able to say it, then I'll allow any residents and anybody in the audience to have comments. So if you want to sit down, you can. You don't have to stand.
Oh, I don't mind staying. I don't mind. Do y'all want me to sit down? Is it too high? So I'm Deidre Fields, and I am here for the appointment on the DDA. And what I wanted to say, I think about the application in regards to your experience and why you want to be on it and things like that. So I'm a native, right? Born and raised. I have various experience in regards to engagement in the community. So in regards to jobs and community interests, right? And building up or maintaining. So I was just in a meeting recently. Jerry told me to keep it short. It's so funny. And now I'm about to tell a story, but dockside services, I'm thinking capstone, so the parent aid, the accountability officer, CPS, APS, right? And the career developer at Michigan Works. And I'm just thinking I miss some of my jobs. But anyway, I've always been concerned about our community, right? I've always wanted to be involved, and I've gotten a new interest in regards to, because I don't have any problem or need any direction on how to do direct involvement, but now about how decisions are made, what decisions are being made and my role in it, right? And so the DDA is the first one that you guys will see me up here for. But so ultimately, I love my community at the end of the day, and I want to be connected in various ways. And this is a big one. Any beautification, like an event, the State Theater was really big for me too. And that was something that was mentioned during the planning, the master planning meeting that piqued my interest as well. And then I've just been really more pulled in regards to being on Pacific boards.
Thank you. Does any members have any questions on this field?
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ms. Fields, for coming today.
You're welcome.
See, you've been attending meetings already.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. That's good. I've been talking to you on occasions until you have a passion for the city. You're involved. I see you at different events, downtown and all around town. I see we have a letter of recommendation from the president, so don't get better than that. Don't get better than that. So just speaking with you, I think you'll be a good asset to this committee. Downtown, we got a lot going on, and I think you serve well. Thank you.
Thank you. I worked this white before too. It made me think about that. I was a mentor for the trio. I was mentor of the year too. Yeah, out of LMC. Forgot about that.
I'll just say, I work with you with different things, got to know you a lot better. Like you said, seeing you at master plan, just seeing you at different events was very instrumental with the River Fest and helped me with that event. Stepping up, I was just like amazing. So thank you. I'm so happy that you're stepping out. So hopefully we'll see you in one of these roles as well. So
thank you.
More energy, beautiful ideas and stuff.
Thank you.
Well, I haven't worked with you, but I know you from school, and I know you're an entrepreneur, so I think you're going to bring some great ideas. I'm excited to have you join the board.
Thank you.
Commissioner Adams, and
Mr. Adams, if you want to,
welcome, and welcome, because me being involved with Black Lives Matter, my brother's keeper mainly, and trying to raise or seek out young leadership to take the reins of their future. I'm glad to see you standing here and stepping up and taking your rightful seat in your community to help guide the ship, to make sure that all are served. And I just want to say thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
And there are other seats available and coming up as well.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that have any comments or?
Jerry, you want me to say about me?
Open up to, I didn't know.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Just trying to keep the meeting.
Short.
Question?
But I
Not short, but
In order.
in order.
I just want to ask a question. How do you feel, or do you think it's fair, after all of our meetings are streamed, that the DDA meeting should happen here transparently to the community?
What do you mean transparently? Open?
The meetings are not here. You're right,
The
right,
DDA meetings? They
right.
are here.
Yeah, they're held in the chamber.
They are?
Yes.
Now, I didn't know that. So they're recorded as well?
They're held in the chamber now.
Okay,
No,
but I
no,
said
no.
they're recorded is the word that I used. Is that a problem?
No,
Okay, can we fix that legislatively? No, I'm, Madam Chair.
So is it,
It will be, when we get the new chamber upgrade,
Okay,
anybody will be able to.
okay. And can we do that legislatively, being a young leader and stepping up?
I mean, why?
That, why not?
The legislative committee.
No,
Why
no, no,
they
I'm not,
approve.
no, I'm not just talking about the DDA meeting. I brought this up before. All of the other
Oh,
meetings
yes, that's.
that
yeah,
are
that's what she was
arms
saying.
of the community. Okay,
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
yeah.
yeah, it should
You
be.
agree? Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, thank you.
I agree. It should be, especially in the chambers, what a private meeting in the chambers for, so. I agree.
All right, Jim.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Co-Chair, and to all of you. Just to try to make it short. I met Deidre, I think it was the same year, summer of the time they started doing the pipe up on the hill in Morton. I think that was my first summer as being a commissioner. So I had met her that year. And from that time on, she reminded me of me when I was younger, but in a female body. With the female attitude where she can reach that side that I couldn't reach. And ever since then, she has been on it, running. And it's been nice working with her. It's even nicer working with her. And she's like my mother.
I be fussing. But I'm sorry, if I can say something again, or it's only in order on this.
Go ahead.
No, I wanted to say, I didn't even, Commissioner didn't snuck in here. Henry, met her at the farmer's market. And she pulled me in regards to a newsletter and, that process more or less, but really had, and reminded me of us needing to be involved, right? And then us being the ones necessarily putting out information according to how it is received in the communities. And so the newsletter, and she also was talking about like Facebook and things of that nature, but pulled me in. Now being on the committee was from being at the planning meeting, but actually being connected to, the commission and things was actually Commissioner Henry in regards to, we need you to be on because how I got it from Commissioner Henry was more of just being involved, not actually a member. So just kind of serving as a community committee meeting. But,
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
yeah, that's where it started.
Looking forward.
It is. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's it,
Thank you,
Madam.
Commissioner.
We'll, go to move this item to the full body.
Yes.
The next appointment is Ms. Kennard. I see her in the audience. Ms. Kennard is being appointed to the Brownfield. Yeah, if you have anything you want to say?
She said reappointed.
That's what I said.
Yes.
Yes.
No more than, I'd be delighted to serve on the Brownfield. I feel very committed. I think it's a very important entity in the city here. And so it makes me feel really wonderful to serve on that board, and with the members that's there, I think we get along very well, and hope that we are doing a good job. And like I said, you learn more about your city by participating and being a part of things. So that's what I intend to do, and that's why I'm so adamant about being at these meetings and being at whatever's going on, so that I can know more rather than hear it by, by someone else's opinion or mouth.
That's great. Is there anybody in the committee that has any questions or comments?
Madam Chair, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Kennard, for want to serve. I know you do a great job with all the commission meetings, so I know you make the brownfield. You got a
Yes,
voice, too.
try to be at every meeting. I don't think I've missed, how many have I missed? Have I missed any?
I don't think so.
I want to thank you right now.
Yes.
Sir, thank you so much for being on time and coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know what the laugh is about, but let me know.
The way you said
Okay.
Did I miss it?
Can I just say,
Ms. Kennard. Oh, Ms. Kennard.
Ms.
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, thank you for serving for all of the years that you've served in the city of Ben Harbor. You've been a great role model to many of us who stepped into office, and just seeing you in our community and on the streets is definitely inspiration. So hopefully when I do, as I continue to mature, I'll still have the energy and bandwidth to continue to serve our community as well. So thank you so much for everything you've done and doing our community.
Thank
It's
you.
greatly appreciated.
it's pretty much what I want to say. Thank you for answering the call. We need wisdom to help guide the ship. Thank you, Mrs. Hunt.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kennard. I vote to move this item to the full body.
Yes. Since
And there are two more appointments, for individuals.
They're aware of the meeting.
Yeah, there are two more appointments. So I'll go to move forward, they can attend, the meeting that this will be presented in the commission meeting. Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is the update of the landlord policy. Yes. City clerk, did we get any more responses from who we sent these to? Does anybody have any questions or comments? Go ahead.
I do, thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Who, did we send it to? The city lawyer is reviewing it and has some updates or changes?
The attorney's working with public safety and the city manager's office.
My only concern is, when this was first introduced, was a while ago, we've been to a couple of meetings. I'm pretty much, I'm not new to Benton Harbor, but moving here, I am new to Benton Harbor. There are a lot of abandoned and dilapidated buildings, and there are a lot of people who are kind of out in the streets. This becomes a dangerous and hazardous display when it becomes cold. People will break into buildings to stay warm, start fires. So this, have insurance for all the buildings and have them boarded up, I don't think is beyond a landlord or someone that owns property here in the city. It's a blight in our community, and it will get worse. Hopefully not. And that was my only concern, is that, the residents, and if they're starting things to stay warm, which people will do, they're gonna do what they have to do. If they have to go in and start a fire to keep warm because there's no heat, and then this is a building that's unused, it becomes a problem for the people that surround that particular building. So with all of the development that we are trying to bring, all of the established things that are coming, just to kind of safeguard the residents who are here, who have bought houses here, who have invested in this community, I don't think that's a far reach to have people, insure their property. They should have insurance, even if there's not inhabitable at this point. So that's all I have to say. And it's been kicked down the road, and people are this, that, and the other. I don't understand why it has taken so long. I would like to know, is there a final decision after all of this that we can have to say, hey, we need to move this to a full-body vote and blah, 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 if you may. Thank you.
Is there any other comments or questions on this item? Thank you.
What does it suggest will be done if people fail to have insurance?
I do not have a resolution on me. I understood it was by what the lawyer previously, if my memory serves me correctly, there were fines levied against the property, against the owner, I should say. I just not having it in front of me, I don't know. The lawyer had his legal position.
My reason for asking
Yes,
is
ma'am.
that
Yes, sir.
most insurers won't insure an unoccupied.
Ding.
Yeah, they won't insure. Even the FAIR plan would not give insurance on an empty building.
Okay.
Commissioner Adams.
Thank you. Mr. Little just made a clear point. You can call any insurance carrier. They do not and will not insure a vacant property. But I would like to see something. I mean, all of this came about when we lost some community members in a fire. And those those dwellings that renters are renting to people, and something like this occurs, somebody need to be held accountable. And I agree with that. And the attorney has had this too long to at least not be here to at least give an update. But we most recently found out from him not updating us as he should have been, the cost, fines, and fees that are given to some long-standing residents for their properties, and it's very unfair. Especially when it has a jail or any type of threat of a imprisonment attached to it. That should not be. I'd like to see, Madam Chair, if in fact we can do something and put a timeline on these people that have been doing it for a very long time. A lot of people that own property in Benton Harbor that's boarded up and they don't even live here because they're expecting for the growth that they see right now happening to do this. They should be allotted a certain amount of time, just like we give when people come forth and want to purchase something. Where's your plan? And Berrien County, if they are going to stay involved with auctioning properties, that should be an attachment that's with it. A plan of anybody that's bidding on a property should have a plan. Because the city of Benton Harbor, it is time out for us to, it's time for us to start tearing down, building anew. And we can't do that if we don't make a way for it to where it looks community driven and not a dilapidated house here and 5 new homes here with an old dilapidated blighted piece of property in the midst of it. And that's where we're headed because there's some great things that are about to happen. If we could please get the city attorney to do his.
One of the things I would say that the ordinance, if I can remember, it just wasn't for abandoned buildings.
Right.
It was just landlords having, I own another property.
If he was here to give an
It's
update.
insured as well. If you need to speak, please come up to the podium and have something.
If
to
he
say.
would come give us an update,
Yeah.
we would know.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
If you have a comment, just come up to the podium. So we can be recognized.
Hi, I'm Richard Hensel, and longtime resident. There are some issues with the current ordinance that I think really need to be investigated. That ordinance has been on the books. I was actually here when it was passed in the chambers. Was present for the legislative committee conversation about it. The idea of fixing criminal penalties to civil, what is really a civil infraction, was obviously meant to motivate some of the people that Commissioner Adams was talking about. We can see what effect it's had. But I would like to say that I think that the ordinance is so vague. I happened to have an opportunity to go to court on Monday with Mr. Fleming, who is representing his mother in a building that they own downtown, or excuse me, on Broadway and Empire. It just so happens that that building was one of the buildings that our master plan update people saw on our tours through the city. We got out of a bus and walked around that building. We walked through the neighborhood. We talked to the people who were there and what they wanted to see. Their recommendations were that those buildings need to stand, and we need to do everything we can to keep them standing and get things going in them, the existing buildings. So our city policy really, in general, based on redevelopment ready cities and Michigan Economic Development Corporation policies, are that we should be looking at preserving and reusing the building stock we have in order to make sure that we have housing that's affordable and that we have opportunities for economic development that people can afford to get into. If we tear these buildings down, if we force people to tear these buildings down when they can be rehabilitated, we lose that opportunity. And that fixes a high cost on whatever development that comes later, because you're starting from scratch. And it's only through incremental development of the neighborhoods, one building at a time, one house at a time, that you're actually going to start to see lasting change. These flashy ideas of flashy projects where someone's going to come in and build something magnificent and it's going to transform the city. How many times have you seen that? Or, I mean, I can tell you how many times I've seen it over 40 years, and it hasn't transformed anything. We have lots, especially in that area, we have lots that have been empty for over 40 years. And some property that the city owns as well that should have been redeveloped decades ago. When people talk about wanting to see change in the inner city and inner city versus downtown, well, I live in a neighborhood and I can tell you I'd like to see some development in the neighborhoods, but talking about it is not the same thing as doing something about it. And these policies have to align so that we can build the community we want to see overall. If you want to keep people here who are living here now, you need to have a strategy and a plan that works. The master planning process is one of those opportunities for everyone to get involved and to talk about these things, to make sure that they're in the city's plans and that the city attorney who doesn't show up or doesn't follow the city's ordinances in terms of notices and everything else can be here to hear what the elected officials, what the appointed officials are putting in place to benefit our community and to steer us into the future. That person is hired to do what is said in this room. He's not an independent person who operates outside of the policies and the ordinances. So I am preaching, sorry. I need to get off my box. But I just want to say, this is really important. That ordinance really needs to be taken apart, and I would hire someone else to look at it. I would not go with the current city attorney to look at it.
I can give it to her because I be having my policies and have stuff figured, and so I'll just ask her for the sake of order.
So the landlord policy that I've been kind of looking back, and we've had that on our agenda. I mean, I went all the way back to our January 5th meeting, and we reviewed from our December meeting, so it's been on our agenda forever. However, we always talked about insurance policies for homes that were not abandoned.
Right,
I don't
that-
recall
that-
ever talking
right.
about that. Now, I do see something where we talked about an abandoned buildings and structures registration. We talked about that. And again, this is going back to our agenda from January 5th. Now, if anybody wants to go back like I did, this is a something that would be more pertaining to what you were mentioning as well. The purpose is in the intent of the City of Benton Harbor's Commission to adopt an ordinance to establish an abandoned policy registration program as a mechanism to protect neighborhoods from becoming blighted through the lack of adequate maintenance and security of abandoned properties. So if you go back, it looks like there's two different things that everybody's mushing together.
Yeah,
And what constitutes abandonment? Sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
What constitutes abandonment? What are the conditions that
Okay, I'll
neighbors need
tell
to be
you what it
looking
says
for?
on
Or
here. A residential, commercial, or industrial structure that has been vacant for 30 days and meets any of the following criteria. First one is provides a location for loitering, vagrancy, unauthorized entry, or other criminal activity, has one or more boarded windows, has taxes in arrears for a period of time exceeding 365 days, has utilities disconnected or not in use, is not maintained in compliance with the International Property Maintenance Code. So that's what they're considering.
did you say one or all of those criteria?
It says, meets any of those criteria.
And where are you reading from?
I'm reading from our prior meeting. I don't know, I could send it to you. It's from January 5th, 2022, our meeting we had.
Okay, and I know sometimes stuff is like dragged on, and I come in and I've heard it, and so now I have a question, and so I'm not trying to open any like wounds necessarily, but I did have a concern with that. I know I'm not going to say this property owner's name, but has them. He gets the grass cut, but I want to say it nobody has lived in two of them that's literally right next to each other for like, I don't know. So I was wondering how that works. So it's beyond just having more than one boarded window is enough, right? Because it said just one of them. I just was wondering. So I wanted to know how that worked. And then who enforces it? The attorney? I've never seen, is he like a phantom?
No, yeah, the attorney would not.
Well, do he end up giving out the citations where people end up going to court
Well,
about
code enforcement gives out the
citations, right? And then he,
if it goes through that process and ends up in his.
Often.
Then it goes to court, yeah.
and then, okay. So does he decide which ones to push or all of them? Like, so when they turn it to him, he puts everything for it. So it only happens if the ordinance officers give it to him?
Yeah, the
Yes.
code enforcement officers, yes. Anything that he gets is because he's gotten it from code enforcement.
Okay.
And from the chief, they work on that side of it.
So in regards to code enforcers, what meeting is that a question for?
When I spoke to him, he said he couldn't be here today. He had a conflicting meeting.
Mhm.
So I asked him to attend, but he will be in Parks and Recreation, which will be next week. He'll be in Commissioner Edwards' committee meeting and Commissioner Singleton's meeting next week. And so he'll be able to ask, he'll actually give a full report of what's been happening in their department.
Oh.
The fire department and the police department, code enforcement will give a report next week. So a lot of the questions will be great for him.
Okay.
And then
Mhm.
Clerk, the questions that we have, would you pass those?
So yeah, these are all kind
No, that's great. So she can hear that and she can give those questions to them so we can answer that during his full report on next week. So this is great. And that's how that usually works. Like we'll open up something and then if it needs to be talked about again, we can send it to the next committee and keep it going until that issue or that thing has been resolved.
so it starts here.
So legislative ordinances and that kind of stuff, yes, they do.
Start here. So we bring it to you guys rather than public safety.
It just depends on what it
Initially,
is.
okay.
Yep,
Okay, and I'll get notes on it.
we can do both. It
Okay.
depends.
I just know sometimes people like, not this meeting, next meeting, or a different committee. So I just wanted to be correct. So thank you.
Is there, I'm sorry.
I would just like to make the point that while a number of the comments that Mr. Hensel made are of value, it is important to try and reuse as much of your building and housing stock as you can. But public policymakers and decision makers are always counterbalancing the good versus the rest. Abandoned, open, uncontained buildings are a threat to public safety. In cities across America, they are. They have had situations where people have been victimized in buildings like that, set fires. I remember it's been some years ago, we went through a period here in this city where people were setting fires to a house every night. And the fire department was running back and forth trying to contain them. And those were these vacant open buildings. So there does have to be some enforcement of policy, not only about landlords' buildings, which means those that are actively used for rental and income, but also for vacant buildings and for abandoned buildings. And I think what you read was a pretty decent definition of an abandoned building. Vacant buildings, typically you consider, all right, somebody left the building, but there's an intent to do something else with it within a reasonable time, and somebody gets about it. You can't intend to do something for 10 years and not do it, you know. So I just wanted to make that point.
You can come up and then you can go first because I'm probably saying the same stuff.
Alrighty. So I don't want to beat a dead horse, but just in talking about the codes, no one is arguing, or I'm not arguing that, you know, that there isn't a need to combat blight and dumping and all those things in the city. My issue comes with obviously the ordinance and the lack of procedure as it relates to enforcing that. And so not only is this ordinance something that needs to be looked at, but when we talk about procedure, it's like where there's a procedure around how these codes are being enforced and where they're being enforced. Because we know that people break in properties downtown that have remained vacant for 10 plus years as well. And so we don't see those same tickets being issued. And when we talk about procedure, if the procedure is that this code enforcer would write up a ticket that the attorney has to authorize to sign off on and then move forward with it. In a case that I know about, this same code enforcer asks that the ticket be removed and the prosecutor, city attorney, continued on with it as well. And so that is what I'm saying. And these issues need to be addressed, and there needs to be a proper procedure in place. There's like we can go back and forth all day, but there are clearly holes here. And so there's no need to keep going back and forth about it. We need to do something about it. And that is what I'm here to say. So, thank you.
Right. And she said like most of it too, because I'm like, who decides when? And that was more or less what I was trying to reference too. And then the time frame of it, right? So I know we have how many ordinance enforcers? 2? And
Mr. Little, is that correct? Is that 2?
and right, and not to micromanage anybody, right? But when do you go where? Because I also be thinking about like even grass, like it'll be the stick man sign in one spot. Like when we were cleaning up the second ward, the next one didn't have it. And it's same length of the grass. I don't know if somebody else owns it or how does that work? And so where's the accountability with that? And that's one of the things and the importance like Henry was stressing with this letter, you know, be coming into play, because it's one of the things that I want to stress. And I've talked to the clerk about it as well. Like we need to know, it's like the code enforcement are phantoms. They leave a ticket and you don't, so there's no relationship, there's no rapport. And then you just have, it's like a lottery because we don't understand how it works. You know, like my mom has even gotten one and then the neighbors.
That's a great point. Could you speak to the process or just,
Yes, I certainly would. As a matter of fact.
Could you just go, and so, could you go into that, did you put this one on here, the demolition process, or did you?
I don't know.
It needs to be.
No, because it's here, and we can have this discussion, but it's useless because the person that can answer those questions isn't in this room. And so we'll be going around and around about stuff that I can't answer.
Hold on. Let him answer that.
Yes, so hold on, guys, for to keep the meeting going.
Yeah.
Let Mr. Little answer, and then
The process of the ordinance.
Yes.
Well, the first thing we have to recognize is that the processes basically are set by state law. We have certain latitude underneath the umbrella that state law sets up.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, we have to keep in mind that you're digging out of a hole here left by the last 20 years of mismanagement and dismanagement and emergency management and all of that stuff.
Which is why.
The same person who writes the ticket
Mm-hmm.
that you're saying, and rightfully so,
Mhm.
there's no
Rhyme or reason.
there's reason.
I mean, but
there's
hypothetical.
not that communication, the personal
Consistency.
touch or any of that.
Oh, right.
Because once he writes that ticket, that's not his only thing he ain't got to do for the next even 15 minutes. He'll be off
Okay. I'm
to
sorry.
where somebody is calling about stuff dumped behind somebody's house in an alley,
Mhm.
refrigerators, couches and whatnot. The same person is going to do that. If there's a house falling down up on Colfax that like we had, that was just tore down,
Mm-hmm.
that's a person who has to run and
Do that. Okay.
So same 2 or 3 people. Just as in the case of public works and everything else, the city is sorely deficient
Right.
in the capacity
I
and
understand that.
manpower
Mhm.
to do these things to the level that the city would like to be able to do them. They are anywhere near the level that most of the other cities that I've been in have been able to do it. We're trying to come out of that hole.
Bill.
And so that's what's occurring. But as I said, the processes are set up by state law. We can't appoint and set a judge up here to oversee, but they won't allow us. We used to have a city magistrate. They did away with that. When they created the circuit court system, they did away with
We need to
it.
put
So
it
you
back.
don't have the ability. You gotta work within the mechanism that's there.
Mm-hmm. My rebuttal.
Your question.
I mean, I'm not rebuttal. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
And again,
But
y'all,
come on.
it would be best served to ask these questions next week.
I know, but you let
Mr.
him
Booth will
answer.
be- Mr.
Discussion.
Booth will be here. Go ahead.
No, but you let him answer. But let me start with, okay, so who holds the attorney accountable?
So
Yeah.
again,
That's
that
not
would
in
be-
here?
That's
Ooh.
not this.
What meeting is that one? So I can just write that
Supposed to
down.
be-
This is the legislative committee, so.
All 9.
Who hold, the commissioners hold, so they determine like who does his evaluation and whether to keep him.
We have
things
not
of
done that. We can decide on different firms. We can vote on a firm that, that part is.
That's
up to
what
us.
we need to do.
So,
Yeah.
but I still want to ask my stuff.
I just
And then
have
her and then-
one more comment
No,
and I'm gonna go. Sorry,
So,
and we're all
Deidre,
gonna go. Who's gonna go?
Yeah, because a lot of your questions is better suited for next week.
But-
So would you write them down, give them to the clerk so they can have answers for all the
Yes.
stuff that you have? Because I can see you got a lot going on there.
But it was
This is not the
replying,
meeting for
it was replying to,
Okay,
I
go.
took notes because
It's not a rebuttal meeting.
it wasn't a rebuttal, but I'm just like, okay, so where do I find that state law you're referencing? Like, I mean, some of the
Okay.
stuff was like
Okay.
direct. So where do I find that state law you're referencing in regard to the process they're following?
I'll make some notes on that.
Awesome. And then so, and then the way you're stating, and I understand like we actually speak for as a unit, but who holds them accountable? You or the chief? Who do they report to?
They report to the chief and directly and
Mhm.
indirectly to the city manager.
Okay, and I can stop after that. Yeah, no, just,
Those
yeah.
are great questions.
Mhm.
And some of those questions, hopefully, Clerk Moore is great at recording stuff, and capturing information, and she'll make sure he gets those
Okay,
questions.
okay.
I just have one more comment and then I'm done today. As it relates again to this ordinance and the procedures of how it's enforced, and I get that there are underlying structures, whether it be from the state level, that kind of dictate or at least provide some type of guidance on how these things should be enacted on the city level. But at some point, we have to realize like who we are serving here, and the city cannot be the only institution here who can be allowed to use this whole deficiency excuse when it's time to hold people accountable, right? Because we all have some type of deficiency, whether you're a property owner who is in your 90s and and sick. So it's like, where's the procedures that's going to be in place to protect these people here? And so when we're doing that, there just has to be a suitable system, because like the state, we already know they're not representing us. And so a lot of the policies that have traditionally been used to disenfranchise Black landowners in particular have been federal and state laws. And so like, how are we going to set up and serve our people? It has to be a different way. And that is all I'm saying. As you guys go into the work that I know you're going to do in order to get this fixed, we have to be operating from the mind frame of this is our city, and in looking to revitalizing that, using the assets that are already here beyond these structural things like the land and the water. That is not the asset of Ben Harbor. It is the people here. And so how can we continue to empower the people that are here and really build this community? And so that is all I have to say.
Madam Chair, I was next. I would like to just piggyback off of the gentle lady of the third ward that would normally say, I will just leave that alone. But Mr. Little mentioned something. Are we bypassing the demolition process, or are we on that, or we still on landlord?
So it's like a combination.
Okay, so
Right
here's what I need to say. He touched base on some things, and we all know that when the emergency manager was here, we had a whole lot of fires. And that was the way that the police officers were able to do some training as well. And maybe that needs to go on with a house that we have deemed that needs to come down if it cuts down on the cost of the tear down itself. So my thing is, we had been pushing something because per our city charter, we are allowed to make certain decisions in regardless, well, not regardless of, but in correspondence with what state and federal laws are, being a home rule city.
As long as you don't.
Exactly. And I understand that. But per charter, we have every right to put together our own little bitty magistrate right here to where, yes, we do. We do not have to go across the bridge. I'm just saying that I wish that was something that we would revisit. I wasn't bringing it up for long drawn out conversation, but for us to get an attorney that does their job, us, the elected officials. What I want to say though is about the demolition process, is if in fact we can put something together, because he made a statement that we were not privy to when they tore down the old OIC building, a building that was sound and structured foundation that could have been rehabilitated because it had concrete floors, just like the one down here on Main with the big eagle. And they don't build buildings like that anymore. They were real quick to come and tear down to ensure that we did not do anything with it. And must have the same plans for the Armory, because somebody keep holding us at bay. Not only that building, the OIC building, but our hospital as well, that could have been utilized for a whole lot of great things for this community. The county did that on their own without. And we picked up a big water bill tab for it. So for us to put something in place legislatively for the future to ensure that doesn't happen again would serve the taxpayers of Ben Harbor a great justice.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Basically, kind to help everyone, since we have quite a few in the audience. As far as the demolition list, construction measurements, fire codes, police codes, or whatever those actions are, those will be next week at 5:30. They are actually every second Wednesday at 5:30. So basically, the legislative committee, once they pass it on, the full commission says it's a law. After it's a law, then each department is in charge of enforcing it, which is public safety. So a lot of people don't put together ordinance with public safety. But if you come next Wednesday, if you can give the city clerk your questions, usually we'll have every last one of them up here individually, and you can answer your questions as far as the codes and stuff like that. Thank you.
Go ahead, Director Lewis.
I wanted to touch on the question about demolition. But first, I wanted to mention when I referenced the fires that were going on, that I think it happened during the period of fire emergency manager, but it also happened far earlier than that. A number of years back when we had major investigations, the state police and everybody, and they finally caught some gentleman that had been just let out of a mental institution that was setting those fires. And if I recall correctly, I think he burned something like 17, 18 buildings during that period. But, and on the subject of demolition, again, it's one of those things that state law sets the mechanism that we have to work within with our ordinances and so forth. When I came back to work for the city and realized we had about 40 or 50 buildings that needed demolishing, I tried to move immediately to try and address those, and we even set aside some community development money to pay for demolishing a number of those. But then in comes both federal rules and state law. What wound up happening is that certain public notices were required to be had. We did the public notices. The newspaper made an error and left off one piece. And when that happened, we had to go back and do it again. And each time you did that, there's like a 30-day comment period. You got to wait to do it. We did all of that. We couldn't spend any of the money from social reuse until that was completed. Then when it got time to start moving, because we're city government and we're tearing down more than one or two buildings, then the historical group, they have to do a historical review of each one of the buildings to determine if there's any historical value. We have to go out and identify and hire a person that the state says is qualified to do those reviews and come back to us so before we can start. Now, as soon as you get that out of the way, then there has to be an environmental assessment for asbestos. And again, our group to do it. In fact, I went to the state's pre-bid process of my deal to try and hire someone without having to go through a long drawn-out bidding process and so forth. Got a hold of them, communicated with them. They came back to me. As a matter of fact, just got an email day before yesterday. We do this, but I don't have the manpower to assign anybody to do it right now. So it looks like we wind up having to go and do that anyway before we can do it. But all of this stuff is a combination of a variety of things. When we start designating a building as being dangerous or whatever, all of these rules and laws come starting from the Constitution and protecting people's individual rights on down. And it doesn't matter whether you're talking about a 5-year-old that has a mature guardian who's taking care of their business, or a 100-year-old person who has no more and no less rights than anybody else. And if they're incapable of doing it themselves, a guardian that looks after their interests and so forth. And that's why you have to go through all of these steps and measures. And then other public policy considerations like the business about historical value. There are no shortcuts around these things. And This city has buildings that really should have been demolished and torn down a long time ago. Now, one while the county was doing a lot of that for the city, and in fact, I'll be the first to say that during that period between 2000 and the last 10 years, a lot of buildings were torn down. It really could have had value and should not have been torn down, but they were. Now you're at a point where a lot of them need to be torn down and haven't been yet because we're having to go through these procedures and processes. But if you don't, you wind up, it costs more to skip processes and not go through them than it does to do it otherwise. Because that's an example of that is what's happening with the county tax sale process right now, where they were selling properties and maybe somebody owed $10,000 or $5,000 in taxes. The property sold for $20,000 and they used the additional money to go and tear down houses and something. These people went to court and said, I want my money. And the court said you're entitled to it. So it's a complicated process. It's not because people don't want to, or no, you've got to follow the rules. That's the only thing that's going to affect it.
Go ahead, let's make these to the last comments, unless somebody has some
Actually,
pressing issue, so we can go to.
It's more of a question in terms of approach and policy. And maybe this isn't the meeting, maybe it's next Wednesday, but there are many steps on that path to demolition. And they include a number of inspection steps and opportunity for people to correct things, for the city to identify people who cannot, who are under somebody's protection because they cannot do those things themselves. They don't have the wherewithal or they don't have the funding. We have programs that we hope can help them. And part of that process also includes then just identifying which is which and where they are in the neighborhoods. So rather than rely on two inspectors who have no relationship per se to any particular part of the city, I wonder, is it possible to ask, I mean, we've heard many things for years about community policing. But in response to Deidre's question about people don't know who's sort of parachuting in to give them a list of things that they have to fix, and that person knows nothing about the neighborhood or the context, they're just looking at something off a list. Having familiarity with the neighborhoods and the people who are in them, connecting them up to the resources to take care of the many steps to prevent getting to demolition could make a huge difference in what the city is forced to do when it comes to the processes to tear them down, and helps protect the rights of people who need some protection in the case of elderly or people who have other ability issues. And those people can be identified not by the building inspector, but if we're doing something in those neighborhoods to get familiar with people who are living in them, whether it's the fire department, someone was saying the fire department's going around looking at things and writing tickets. Well, the fire department also has the opportunity to survey the neighborhood. Where are those hot spots where you could expect a fire? Who owns them? You know, we need to spread the work out, and we need to think of it as whose city is this? What do we want it to be? What do we hope it can be in the future? And part of that is just from a policy standpoint, engaging with the people who are here. So you don't get to demolition. And if they can't, won't, or don't, you know, maybe they need to get an incentive to leave.
There you go.
And that's what RRC is about. You know, you follow your processes well before demolition, and you actually talk to the people and say, listen, this has been like this for 40 years. We're not going to have any more of it. We're not going to wait for you to make some money because the person next door is fixing up his house. You either bring it up or get out. And that is the way that we can get our neighborhoods back into shape. Because unfortunately, the people who make those investments, me being one of them, to keep a house up, do not want to live next door to these places. But if people need help to get where they need to be, then I think we should be about that. So, thank you.
I know, and I feel like I'm beating a dead horse too, and we're doing this whole elephant in the room in regards to who we're referencing, and I'm not really even talking about that particular situation at this time, but at the end of the day, it correlates with your community policing. You are to serve, right? You have time for relationships. We have police officers that are not from this area either. There's no relationships. And the ordinance officers are not that busy, right? I don't want to get into the details associated with it, but they're not that busy. So that you can't say, hey, somebody can be, I have literally seen them give somebody something and pune off. Like somebody had just went in the house or they know they wait till they left. I really have, right? And so my point of that is that if we don't have time for relationships or that engagement, why are you doing it? And then that's not serving, because they're up under the police, right? So that's why, and so we're legislative. So a suggestion would be to filter it down in regard to events. I talked about on the clerk with that, having events where you learn who the police officers are, who the ordinance officers are. We had that national night out that was like, it's all over. That doesn't cater to our community. I got a lot of the fire and the carbon dioxide things. So that was like awesome. But we need to have, like, even if it's a productive environment where they get to sit on one side, we're on one side and say, okay, these are things I don't like. I really suggest that.
So that is a great suggestion. I'll say this, put together the event. Put together the event.
Okay.
That's what
okay.
put together the event. I got it.
tried it.
I know,
Go
and
ahead.
I didn't
We
get a
just
chance,
beat
I
the dead
just
horse.
let
Go
it.
ahead.
But the one thing we shouldn't lose our focus on, I rode downtown there, next to the bank there. This building has been all nailed up and then the front bricks are off and everything. It's been sitting there for a lot of years.
Yeah.
Let's use our focus.
Yeah.
They're more concerned about the inner city now, rather than cleaning it up and fixing it up and working towards pulling it back. But downtown, as one of the commissioners said, they say of this place as a piece of art. When it's all abandoned, it's an old building, everything is a piece of art, even though it's all torn down. So let's not lose our focus. They're getting our lead lines redeveloped and all the other things that are happening here. So let's really make the same thing that is meant for the inner city, the same should be followed through the entire city.
Mhm.
That building has been sitting there forever. And there's other things that is eyesores too. But like I said, we've got to not lose our focus. Let's be fair about everything.
I like that.
I agree. And I
It's
think,
art.
I talked to, no, Richard don't think that, because me and him talked about that building falling down and the danger that it poses to people walking or riding their bikes along that street, because I rode past there. I mean, you had the conversation about that building, the one that she just referenced,
And
being
it's not
torn
the only
down,
one.
it should be, whatever.
And it's
Hey,
dangerous
we
and
gotta go.
scary.
It's dangerous.
And I'm saying it's scary, just like it may not be coordinated when you're in the hood,
Yeah.
but it's
dangerous, yeah.
anything can happen downtown too.
Yeah, I'm talking about specifically that building that we talked about that's torn down with no walls. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's ready to fall out of the frames.
Yes.
Boom.
So I don't think everybody thinks that is a
Guillotine.
work of art. It's a mess.
Okay.
But thank-
It's a mess.
Thank you. We appreciate this. This was really nice. I mean, I know it seems long, or you guys didn't
No,
plan
I'm just
on
saying,
it.
so
But No, I didn't want to be sitting from there talking. I was trying to. I really like this though. I mean, and if it wasn't appropriate and you shut us down, it'd been fine. But like this is better than I listen to arguments that are about nothing, and it'd be longer. I think everybody, we know Mayor Commissioner Alice is louder, right? And for every time that she just has that much energy. But what I'm saying is that for the most part, that wasn't the case, and we had conversations. That's his vantage point. We respect it, and we still have ours, and we agree in a lot of areas. And I feel like this was productive. Like people give a whole monologue, as a commissioner, and then our time is shortened, and I just don't think that'd be fair. And especially, did you have a problem with our back and forth? And I'm like, and he's here. We don't have a police officer. And so he needs to get on them because he's taking it because he's considered to be them technically, in our case, because he's the one with authority, right? And understand the policy. So he needs to tell, them to come. But I'm saying we appreciate it, but this is good. It's not never unnecessary. And if it starts here, this is how we get to put our heart out here and say why. It doesn't have to be an argument. It is, and I'm emotional and like, I'm not gonna cry, but it's like, this is important to us, right? You can't tell us like not to talk about it. And then everybody has different points. Commissioner Ellis, I'm so sorry, comes from a different vantage point. Everybody that spoke did. And like, I'm not dropping my business name because I don't do that on purpose because I'm a community member first, right? But wellness is more than just health, right? It's your community. It's how your other communities members are being treated. It is all of that. And then people that are in positions too. And giving accolades a little, he still shows up. He's attacked majority of the time. He shows up. He doesn't cut us off. I do that because I forget what I'm going to say, but I start writing it down. But he's respectable too, but we ought to be able to have this dialogue with such events like I talked about. Like if we should have it like every so often.
Put it together.
I'm okay. But Little, we appreciate you. I do. Right. Okay, okay. I'm calling that number 2 something that you gave me.
Another me.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, I'm gonna hop up and down.
Oh, hop up and down.
Hop up and down. Yeah, this only one he gave me, and it just happens to be loud.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks everyone.
So you have anything on rent stabilization? Anybody on the committee have anything? I know this was an item that was put on there to talk about the high rents, rent stabilization and stabilization. And Commissioner, did you have comments?
Last meeting, we talked asking the attorney to look into some of it. But I was hoping that our chambers would be hooked up where I could show all the documents that either support rent stabilization or does not support it. So we need to have that information to share. But because the chamber is not working, we just at a disadvantage.
So do you want to add it to planning and economic development? And have?
No, I'd rather leave it here and hoping that the attorney can speed himself up and bring some information, as well as.
Can it be printed? Can the information be printed?
Yeah, I thought about that.
Send it to the clerk and see what happens.
I thought about that.
And then at the next meeting, if we want to have a discussion about that, I'll remove one of the other ones, a couple of the other ones, so we'll have more time to spend on that. Because like Ms. Fields was saying, one of the goals is to have conversations around a lot of these things. When you have a lot of hot button issues, you don't get a chance to spend a lot of the time, enough time on those specific ones. There's like a lot of them tonight that we need to have discussion on. So next time I'll remove a couple of these and then just add them like that once, each month, so we can have more conversation around those things instead of having a lot of them on at one time. But if you want to send that to her so she can print it, we can use that for next time.
We'll surely do that.
Yeah, whatever you have, send it to her. All right. Let's go to the next one, which is the Armory. Anybody want to start this conversation? So I'll start, then I'll ask Mr. Little to kind of give some history on the Armory. There were some other people that were supposed to be here that wasn't able to be here tonight. To talk about the Armory and some of the history regarding the Armory and what's happening with it. The crux of the issue with the Armory is operational cost. So we can use ARPA funding or CDBG funds to fix up the Armory, but the issue has always been operational cost. The city cannot operate, we don't have the budget or funds to operate the Armory. Yes, you can. And so that has been the crux of this particular thing. And so wanted to start a conversation again about the Armory and how to get the Armory up and running so that it can be utilized. We can fight about who's presenting or who's doing that, but at the end of the day, we need to choose something to actually get this thing running so it can be used in our community. I don't have to start none. I'm just trying to bring people to the table who have ideas around fixing it so that it can be used in our community. So with that said, I'll let Alex go and then everybody else is in line.
Thank you. I'll just say for openers, nobody really wants the Armory open worse than what I do. I have a strong personal interest in the Armory and also the 200 Park Hall building. When I came back as city manager in 2000, I opened the Armory, but at that time, we had programs that we could put in there that had budgets that could support the electricity, the gas, the water, the insurance, the security, opening and closing and administering. We don't have that now. Ever since I've been back here, I've been trying to get something like that for it. As a matter of fact, you've heard me mention before the effort that we had underway to get a teen tech center put in there. The Best Buy company has an organization that they have 108 of these teen tech centers around the world, not just the U.S. But and they had an organization, I believe, out of New Jersey that actually oversees and sets up and manages these. They had responded and invited us to submit, and we got with the Boys and Girls Club, which operates a number of those in other places, to submit an app to do one in the Armory. We felt that would begin the process of giving us what we needed to open it and operate it. And then the plan was to go back in there and redo that gym floor and make it a community center so that it could service the people that are in this area and so forth. All of that was there before it got damaged. As a matter of fact, one of the things I had to take on when I got back was that the city spent $100,000 of block grant money from HUD without approval and trying to get them to not force us to have to pay that money back. But if we can get some programs going that have the revenues to do the operations, we'll do everything we can to get it open and operating. As a matter of fact, from a planning perspective, we're planning on the use of the Armory in concert with improvements to Hall Park and the Ox Creek corridor redevelopment through there, because all of it can fit right together and be an asset for the city. We've also been quietly working on trying to get money to put a roller rink and a splash pad for the young kids right down here next to the work that was just done on Ox Creek. But all of that takes time and effort to try and do it. And unfortunately, again, this city's capacity is very, very limited. A lot of these great ideas I come up with, I get to write them, think them up, I get to type them up, I get to call the people who visit them, do whatever, because they don't have anybody else to do it.
We gave you 2 people.
Yeah, we're working on it, but nevertheless, that's the situation with the Armory. Now, the Armory in its present state probably needs a couple of $100,000 minimum of work to be done on it, because when they shut it down, they did no preventive maintenance. They left water running. They didn't board up the windows. Windows got knocked out. People have stolen parts of the system that was in there. All of that stuff has to be redone.
Thank you, Director Little.
If I may, The Armory is really what brought me back to Ben Harbor. I lost a son and nephew not 100 feet away from there. I got married at the Armory in 2000. And what I realized was that I learned that the city of Ben Harbor had got $1 million point something to do something to the Armory, but I couldn't see other than the rubbery floor that I doubt costed anything near $1 million. The bathroom, everything was just filed. The kitchen, that probably was 50,000, but somebody probably need to be investigated and go to jail for it. But that's besides the point. Since then, Mr. Little, in your absence, sir, the emergency manager, prior to the emergency manager, we spent money on that Armory. I've gone through there and taken pictures. I got a machine, it's a gigabyte. It holds a lot of data. And over the years, I've gone in there and taken pictures because I used to do weddings and receptions and stuff, and I've hosted some events there. After emergency manager Harris spent, I think, $10,000, $12,000 on a system for the roof, for heating and all of that. And that was in his tender. And that was what, after we just really came out of emergency management. When we had Miss Regina and Nicole, I went through there and took pictures. There was nothing wrong. We were upgrading the Armory. Now, during that time, there was a fire, like all other fires, when the emergency manager was here. Okay, so after that, somebody had came up with plans on not allowing us to utilize our Armory anymore. And during that time, children started vandalizing. I go by and I record the children. If they could get inside and do what children need to do as a safe space, they wouldn't be outside throwing rocks and breaking windows and stuff. So, all that being said, we have spent money in the Armory. I get it that we have to have a program together to make sure that it's sustainable. But even prior to that, when I had some people come up front with a program for our babies in the community, I think it was Commissioner Henderson and our Honorable Mayor Marcus Mohammed and a couple other selected people come up with this other fabulous idea with someplace up over on the other side of Detroit or Troy or somewhere, and put things on hold once again. But I think the time is now that we put together something. Before we make any decisions on anything, and I know that this is going to be grave discussion, and I'm glad more than anybody that we have a youngster that's willing to help put together some programming, because it's a community center and we will work together at getting it done. But we have something else to take into consideration. Our wonderful director here has purchased other property up along the side, I think. And if you look at the way it's built, it's actually buildable. I took Manchester Bidwell Arts and Training Technology Center CEO's people on a tour of Benton Harbor. And what this man does, Mr. Strickland, he has a whole slew of people in the country and out of the country that he go and fundraise for communities, poor, impoverished communities. They're not coming in here trying to take over anything, but to strengthen and pull things together, like our Connexus, our college, putting something together for me to go to the Armory and get a career training. All it takes is a classroom. If you look at the way it's made over there, if we own that property now, and we just passed a resolution for some building and trades going on, we can build it ourselves. To build up on that and put some classrooms there while other things are going on. Creating a safe space for our children is very important to me. I've been on the phone with Obama's people for the past 9 years. I have not been wasting my time. I want to see all of these things for our community. It's not I take all of this information, gather it, and bring it back to you all, and listen and hope that we can sit and plan and put something together. This man's idea, though, with everything that he does, is to put a fountain in front of it. We have one that already exists. We have one that already exists that he would love to beautify. His CEO said, this is perfect. But what they don't know is that we own other land now. So I just want y'all to take all of that into consideration. And not only that, we have a great surprise coming next year. We got some help coming that's going to help do some building that's not going to cost us a dime because of those 9 years that I've been on those calls.
Thank you, Commissioner Adams.
You're
And
welcome.
I just want to say, Tracy Jennings was the former Economic Development Director, and what she had done, she had gone out, I think it was 2 years ago, myself, Commissioner Edwards, Commissioner Harrelson had gone to Detroit, and all the other commissioners were invited, and I think the mayor knew, because he knew the people that also owned it, but Tracy Jennings, when she was the Economic Development Director, put together, working with this group out of Romulus, who took over Romulus, Michigan's center and actually invested in it, and they have a whole slew of programs, so it was trying to work with them, and so all of the commission was invited, but the only three of us went, including Tracy Jennings, Tracy McIntosh, City Manager Ellis. We all rode a bus down there to go see their facility, to see how they would be a good match for us. And so they ended up coming down, and I think the mayor, when they came down, took them for a tour on the Armory, and I'm not sure what happened, but I think they backed out of that particular venture. So we had nothing to do with it. We were just, we were invited to go look, to go see. I don't know if no, she didn't go. But yeah, it was beautiful to see, because they ran drug treatment programs. They had a bunch of programs, and they had a lot of money, because the person who owned that business, his father was a foreign ambassador. And so they had millions of dollars to invest. And so in Detroit, they were doing a lot of those programs in Ann Arbor and the Detroit area. So that's how that came about. Ms. Fields.
Oh, he can go. I don't want him to.
No, go ahead.
No, I want him to go.
Go ahead, Ms. Fields.
You first, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. I almost forgot some of it out because after, so I would. No, I know. But it's all good stuff. It was actually correlating, like, in regards to the family connection piece, though, because I'm pretty much, everybody knows where I was raised for the later part of my life, Thrasher, right? So I know about the Armory, right? I too, I don't understand how it was so horrible. Like, I don't have the stats and the dates and stuff like Commissioner Ellis is saying, but I don't remember being that horrible either. I remember the basketball games. No, and it's fine. No, I'm saying, so it'd be helpful to like really know it. Like, we don't understand when it's closed and not used. And so that is another communication piece, is just what I mean in that regards, because I really, and I mean, was right on Thrasher. I don't know why it was closed, and actually a lot of the times I didn't do as much stuff because it was really like they had basketball leagues and stuff. I remember Deion Bowens was a coach. She was one of the reasons I went. And so I remember that it was really, a source for youth and, right here in town. And then also in addition to thinking about that, I don't know the price versus a splash pad, but I know most of our kids can't swim. So I'm not really excited about a splash pad. Because I didn't say it as comedy. So I'm like distracted a little bit, but I'm just really saying that, do we have a choice in that? Because like several things that was referenced, like, do we get to pick, do we get the skating ring back? That was awesome. That was next to the Armory, and then the Armory. Like, so how do we decide stuff? We do have some kind of fountain or some other stuff. And then we have beaches. Like, I don't understand how we decide things, but I know we're going to have the conversation, and I'm really just responding, but I have nothing negative to say. I'm just saying that I wasn't aware. So, all kids and parents know it's not open anymore. $100,000, like Director Little was saying, is a lot of money, right? And then I know Hull Park, they were at one point, even when we had that one mayor lady for that really brief time, right? I remember where she was from, but we did the park, and I know they I don't know, but we tear up the park. We have to be accountable for that. Most people, because we used to have basketball games, they would come and paint it. It was every year they were fixing it. When the swamp area we did, that baseball stuff was kind of out the deal, but they would do numerical round slides. They'll do that painting it. I remember it was different colors too. The lunches, you felt safe going down there. And then it was the Armory, and then it was the skating ring. And now it's none but, it's no longer polluted creek, but it's just like, And so that was my only, vantage point that I'm coming off of, not pointing fingers, because if you don't necessarily know all the details, which I don't, I just know it's not there anymore, right? And then I mimic, and that's why I talked about the DDA and Richard, is because I like original things that we had, and it worked. Like the skating ring was awesome. I don't particularly think, and it's another reason why I love the master planning, is because I didn't go skating as much when I had to go all the way over there. That's like a whole nother city almost. And it's like, we had a great skating ring. It was intimate enough. It was packed. You didn't go, right? You got to catch it next week. But, they enforced the limit and everything, but people can walk to it from our Blossom Acres, not Highland, from Blossom Acres and from whatever they call the bus area. But we walked, it was safe, it was some stuff to go do. I mean, I don't know if they should have went to Roxeter just because it was closed, but that could have been their anger, doing different case management with kids. They were probably upset, and if we can't get in, won't nobody do nothing with it, because even kids are smart enough to know that, or think that, well, what they about to build here is something we don't have, and something we can't use. I'm sorry. And so I'm just speaking from that piece of it, not arguing or having a debate about it or whatever be the case. And then we've already talked about, I will look into like the conversations in the meetings, because I know they shouldn't really happen here for, drawn out, but they're needed, right? And then again, I'm not like a fan of anybody, but I really do and have noticed that Little shows up. Right? It may not look or say what we want him to say, but he's here, listens, and getting yelled at every week. But we need to have conversations, and I feel like we need to be more a part of decisions, because even in the midst of statements, it's what we decided that. I don't understand, especially if we're not having community forum about it. So what we is, deciding that. So, that may not sound nice, but other than that, I mean, you're doing some stuff, and I come and I've heard you say about the things the brunt of work that you've had to come and do and different things. And so, we all get, feedback and different things, but we don't feel, included, or that's what I meant about the policing. Talk to us. A lot of stuff, I talk about people parking on the wrong side of the street, and they do that even in the winter. Why aren't they getting citations? But that is okay. But then you're tearing down a whole building that we just need to be a part of stuff is all. So yeah, it is.
So me and my team were actually. So So Armory should be like a safe space. I mean, I grew up in safe spaces like the Armory, the Loft, even Miss Weeks' school, Columbus. I mean, I grew up in safe spaces. The Armory definitely was a safe space for me. You have boxing out there, you have basketball, you even have cheerleading going on for the girls. I mean, it definitely can be used as a family safe space as well, not just for the kids. It can be used for more than just the kids. To be honest, the Armory could be a skating rink. You basically put it all into one. Right. We definitely have a plan. Me and my team have a plan. I'm not alone. Ashley's a part of my team. My brothers, we're all like one big team. So I'm not alone. Mm-hmm. But we definitely can make this into basically bring back like what it used to be, but even better. Yeah. It's not about me personally. It's about basically the whole community. At some point, we all in here gonna die, and basically make it better for like the future. So it's not about me at all. It's more so about the kids right now, basically, and also basically building like a legacy for the kids. Yeah. So yeah, I definitely want to tour though at some point, like soon, if we could.
Can you put together a committee?
I was just going to say that. I don't know how to,
Yeah,
but I think that a good approach that the city can take, because that's kind of similar to what my organization is doing, when there are projects or interest areas around getting the Armory started or seeing this happen in whatever community, starting community committees that are centered around building a plan and funneling resources to get this project off the ground. So whether that looks like community members in addition to anchor institutions along with city officials, so that again we're already building these relationships. And so that could be something, if the city is committed and has some funding to get the Armory together, let's start a resident-led committee that has Mr. Little and whoever else wants to sit on this committee to really figure out how you can make it sustainable. I think that that's a lot of things that we get so emotionally tied to these things, but these ideas have to be sustainable.
Mhm.
Yeah, skating rink or whatever, a community center, how are you gonna pay for it?
Yeah.
Right, once it's up and running. And that is the piece that a lot of times we're missing in the
Yeah,
conversation.
tenants.
So to really be able to create a viable plan, why not have different people at the table to see how we can make it work? Because you can make anything work. I believe in that. So just gotta kind of build it. So
So I agree, creating a subcommittee is what you're essentially saying, a subcommittee around, the Armory, because again, we just need to start having a conversation, active conversations where it's gonna be moved versus just continue to talk about it.
yeah.
And so that's
We can't talk
where
about
my,
it.
we just can't continue to talk about it, we need
Action
to
plan.
talk about, to do an action plan, so creating a subcommittee
So,
with, community members to be able to do that. We can do that, in fact, she said
can you put it
community
on
led.
planning economic
So who do
development?
you want to lead the subcommittee, and then you can have your subcommittee, meet,
Like she was saying.
if you have a question, you can come up to the,
Put it on planning economic development committee meeting.
Is that when they're going?
No,
Well, it's going,
no,
so real
I
quick,
just-
it's gonna go to,
Create it.
Carson.
Create it right now,
Yeah, that's what
while
I'm saying.
you have the
That's
opportunity.
that's what I'm trying to do. Go ahead.
Well, I'm gonna be very quick because of the time, but I think what Ms. Hines said about having a subcommittee. Also, I believe the fourth ward commissioner should be part of that at the table too, since that is her ward.
She could've came and sat in.
Yeah, well, I'm
Okay.
speaking
Well,
for her.
obviously, if your mom wants to be a part of it, and she hears about the committee, she can
She
join
can
it.
be a part of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
obviously it's a.
I
May
just
I
wanted
say
to make that
something,
statement
please?
that I want her to include it.
What'd you say?
I just wanted to make it that she included.
Okay, and that's what we have no problem with anybody being included. This is not an I thing.
It's
My job is always to start conversations because we need to start the conversation and make it an active plan. And so that's all my goal is to make it an active plan. And having it in somebody's mind or heart and not making it active is never gonna happen, which is why it never hasn't happened.
This is just a start, right?
So this is a start.
Okay, so that's all I want to say about that. So also, over the summer, I have the privilege to be the summer youth supervisor. I took the kids over there fruit times, maybe fruit times.
I'm trying.
And all they like, when this gonna open up? They waiting for it to open up. They like, oh, my parents, my dad told me about this, all the good stuff. So the kids are ready for this Armory to be open. And I told them I'm working on time to get it open. Hopefully it won't be years from now. Hopefully it'll be in the next couple of years or so. Also, I think we gonna need like a specific subcommittee worry about the Armory. I think it should be like for crucial project too, like for all projects, like not just the Armory. Yeah, like one committee, and that's all I gotta say.
Thank you, those are very insightful. Thank you.
And then what I was gonna say was that it's what Little talks about too, is like he comes from the financial area, because he's trying to wrap it up. He comes from the financial component, and then like Ashley was saying, and even I'm not trying to be emotional, I'm trying to understand and be a part of proactive in regards to going forward. And you can't talk about it without sustaining it and talk, and then like, for example, like I told him, I didn't know what happened to it. So when you're transparent and then people that are a part of the committees are then kind of helping that be known, then that helps and it takes it off of like, okay, what did little do?
So this is what I hope would happen is tonight that we, or as Commissioner Henry in her wisdom said, just let us know when y'all want to meet. I'll show up at a meeting. I ain't got to say nothing, whatever I need to do to assist this process. I would rather not my voice not be heard, like you said. Citizens need to, because we're gonna have a final vote. So if everything is happening, is coming and being citizen led, it can be led by the citizens, and that input is what we want. So again,
So
I don't have to, yes.
So yeah, so even
That's what I need
commissioners.
you to do, to write down,
Okay.
I'm sorry, she wanted to speak too, and it's just like everybody's taking over. A little order would be in order.
Can you start? Go ahead, Commissioner Edwards. Then I think Ms. Booker was next, and then,
Okay, so the Armory, making sure it's possible. I got back here in 2014. That is the only reason why I'm here, is because of the Armory and Hall Park. Fast forward. As far as I'm concerned, the Armory is also part of Parks and Recreation. Yes or no?
It is. It's going to go to your committee, just so I wanted to start the conversation so we
Yeah.
can continue.
So, moving forward, along with what Mr. Little was saying, since 2014, I've been working on trying to get programs not only for the Armory, but for all the parks. I wasn't even the commissioner. Probably wasn't even a resident then, because I think you had to be here a year. So I wasn't even a resident then. At one point, we did have, or I did, if we want to go there, secured funding to get the whole 9 yards of Hall Park done. And it was done. COVID came along, that's when it was shut down. Am I right? Commissioners didn't know that. Along with that would have came the Armory. There's also the factor, as Mr. Little was saying, getting these programs is the major thing. I already have right here programs should have been from 2020 to 2025. The problem with that is, unlike you don't have a lot of people like me and others, everybody to see what I was doing think I'm getting paid. So when they find out I'm not getting paid, they don't want to volunteer to keep these programs going for the kids. So fast forward, the brothers, Miss Ashley Hines, of course, Ambi and her brother, and others, they have come and we have talked about getting programs because we don't have a funding. And as the commissioners know, and there's the finance, all of us know, Parks and Rec does not have a budget line. When they gave it to me, they gave me one person, Tamika Brock. She answers the phones and makes sure that your permit is done for whenever you're going to have a picnic. They did not give me a bunch of money. And as far as the young man, I did ask your mother, and it's recorded, to help me with the program in her ward. She said she was too busy.
Point of order.
So,
Commissioner Edwards,
now I'm going to say this.
please, we can't make.
So anyway, with the Armory, I am still working on that, but you cannot put up the Armory or it's going to end up like Union Park. They did Union Park with no programs. What happened? They wrecked it.
Your point is well taken, but I do want to get citizens. I want to get more citizens input on this, but your point is well taken, and I agree with you. I agree with you. Go ahead.
Good
Please,
evening.
guys, Just, the hour is getting late. I want as many citizens as possible to have comments.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Chair, for and thank everybody. I'm just so overjoyed, and I ain't gonna start crying, but anyway, I am so overjoyed to see Mr. Alexander, Ms. Hines, Ambi, Deidre, younger people actually taking interest and want to see movement in the city in collaboration with Ms. Kennard, Commissioner Henry, Mr. Little. It's just wonderful to see the generations, and we will work together despite all the personal feelings and things of that nature. We need to move. We're going to move past that. So all the negativity and things of that nature, let's just cut it out. You know, we have to, as Ashley said, we could talk about it all day, but we have to, and people need to understand, we come in here with our ideas. We want to come and voice opinions. We want to come in here and point fingers. We want to talk down about ideas or people. We have to, and in order to move forward and be considered and be taken seriously, come down here with a plan of action. Submit your plan of action. Put everything else to shame. Nobody can dispute or deny the fact that you have something in writing. If we have to create, or we, when I say we, a subcommittee to make this happen, let's do that. And let's stop talking about it and move forward. We can talk. We've been talking for years. No movement anywhere. We talk about the downtown area. Why are we upset about the downtown area and that it's moving forward? You guess what? The only difference is, guess what? They're not just talking, they're taking action. We can do the same. We need to learn to do the same. We're going to have to collaborate and work together. At the end of the day, that's what it's going to take in order for us to move forward. And I am so happy to see the younger people stepping up and actually being involved and taking over with bringing innovative ideas to help the community, help the children, and to follow in the legacy that the people, our ancestors or older people have created for us. I just wanted to say that, but I'm really overjoyed today. I think this meeting has been great. It's been long, but it's been great. I think a lot of things have need to be said, and they have. And this is just the point. This is the beginning of a bright future for the city of Ben Harbor.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I just wanted to say how amazing, how happy I am to be from a community that allows me to utilize my voice and show up and speak my truth and speak my piece and be a part of a community and helping my community to move forward in a way that that I can relate to, that I can resonate with. So thank you for these meetings. Thank you for hosting. Thank you for keeping us informed. Thank you for taking the time to listen to us. I honestly just want to say, when this committee gets formed or whatever you need to help formulate it, I would like to be a part of that. I'm really understand that this is not the place to discuss what that looks like, but I want to be at the table in the place that discusses what this looks like. So if we can have dates or emails or something that gets us moving forward so that we can affect change and be a part of positive change in our community within our lifetime. I would appreciate that. And that's it. Thank you.
We already are, Amby.
No, that would be the clerk.
So Miss Fields is actually going to lead that. She's gonna lead this committee, and anybody that wants to be a part of that committee, see her show up at those meetings. Let me know. I can open the chat, whatever I need to do. Mr. Little.
Yeah.
Ms. Bernard.
Yes, so one more thing that I wanted to sort of interject in tonight's conversation is that we have one of the most beautiful places that we probably don't pay close attention, and that's the lakefront.
It's a jewel.
It's a jewel. And what I see there, and I see that Commissioner, she's had a river fest there for the past 2 years. But I'd like to see our city do like a lot of other cities. Don't wait till the last minute to start fixing things up. Have if you clean your house on a regular basis, it don't get a chance to get cluttered. So I'm saying there at the lakefront, if we do an upkeep of it, those islands down there would be beautiful. They got some beautiful plantings in there, and they got a lot of things that need to come out of there. I know landscaping, I've done it for years. I've done it for contractors, and I'd like to teach that about landscaping. And if I could show you some of the landscapes that I've done, you wouldn't even believe an old girl like me put it together, but I've done it. But I'd like to see our city shine like other cities that we go to, and we see them with beautiful flowers, everything well placed. And here we have the city down there. If you go and see all of the weeds and things growing, this shouldn't be. We should take a time to pull those islands together and make sure that City Hall is beautiful and is welcoming, that people would love to come into. You know, they say the first impression, that means get the person's attention, and then they're well to walk in and look, because something is really happening there because it's well put together. So this is one of the things that we should pay close attention to. Thank you.
And I'd just like to say there are several meetings happening about the master plan toward the end of October.
Yeah.
My specific meeting is on the 25th at the Teen Center. And that'll be a great place to talk about the riverfront,
Right.
Ms. Kennard, and at every one of those meetings that's happening. I don't know the dates of all of them, I have them, but I don't have it in front of me. And so, but mine is on the 25th at the Teen Center. Mine and somebody else's, I forgot who's with me on that particular night. Oh, Commissioner Isom. Yeah. So is there any other comments? I mean, we're gonna move those other items. It's too late to add those two right now. But any other final comments on those? Commissioner Henry, you have not spoken, so. But go ahead.
I just wanna thank everyone that came out, and especially the young, cause you guys are picking up the bloodstained banner. And I wanna also say thank you to Commissioner Adams here. She brought up some history that most of you didn't even know about. And I can contest that she knew exactly what she was talking about. It happened. And then I have to go to another place. There's a reason why Benton Harbor is the way it is right now. There's a true reason, and it never goes away. It's a constant chip at the old block. Gentrification. And I'll say it, gentrification. It don't go away. No matter if they get quiet for a little while, they come back. No, they ain't. And they chip at it. Yeah. And if the elected officials allow the five corners to disappear, Grand Alley to come about, grants being written on the backs of Benton Harbor's residents. Grants are being written right now, and they got a grant to create a luxury apartment complex in the city. Now, I could go back until at one time the body tried to fix some things that was wrong. And one of them was to tell everyone that they could not write grants about Benton Harbor unless they came and told the body. Now, I didn't forget about that. That was actually legal. The body approved it. And we're not using it. Same thing about not using the things that's available to us. Section 3 says we need to do some things for our people so they can afford a home. Thank you, Commissioner. But it's our problem, and it's more so your problem, because now you have to make us do the right thing. And that's important, that the citizens make us do it, because if we're lackadaisical, the citizens are the one that's going to suffer.
So what's the cheat code to that?
They're making you do it. By doing what you're doing, coming to us, and I'm going to support you any way I can. I can't go and march anymore, but I will tell you how to do the system. I do have that down pat. I know how to make the system move, and you guys, all power to the people, can make it move.
And if you find me not being transparent, open, or honest about a thing or some things, then that's what the power of your vote is supposed to do. But I just wanted to ask, I had the opportunity to do a pitch for our community. And it was actually wonderful, because for years now, we've tried to be creative at finding ways to save space from our landfills. Do we have any legislation or any type of policies on recycling? And I'm just throwing it out there so you can take a look at it and ask whoever you need to, code enforcement, because we're about to do this thing. Finally, something is coming to fruition. Although I'm sad to say that my pitch didn't go too far, but everybody loved it. I don't think the world, a lot of people actually know that some of our clothing is made of plastic. Shoes, everything. Creating jobs. No, I'm going somewhere if you would give me a minute. If Mr. Little would share, if he chooses to now.
You cannot share tonight, Commissioner Adams. You have to ask the question. If you've been here long enough, the staff has to go home.
I understand
Can you ask
that.
offline?
No, because it's very valuable
Okay,
to,
but Commissioner has not spoken, and in this time, we gotta keep moving. You have a question, you gotta keep moving.
okay,
You
well,
gotta go.
it's
Can
fine.
you ask him?
No, it's
Okay,
fine.
okay.
Just pay attention, y'all.
Thank you, Commissioner Adams.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, I just want to say, because I've been at the Boys and Girls Club since 5:30, so I just got off the tour, so I apologize for my lateness. I just really wanted to know what the committee was about at the Army. I'm glad to see movement. I've been talking about movement, but this is my first. I walked in and on 10 about a committee, and that's my ward. So I want to know what is this committee.
So we're talking about, because I don't want anybody to think this is Commissioner Henderson's idea. I just want movement on the Armory. There's been a lot of talk about doing something, but like you said, nothing has been done. So to get things moving, we created a committee form of residents who is going to lead getting this Armory completed and lead the process. And so commissioners will be involved in it, but pretty much it'll be a citizen-led subcommittee. So they'll still report to Parks and Recreation, Economic Development, Legislative, as this process continues to evolve. And so as a commissioner of Ward 4, if you want to sit on that committee with them, you can do so. But it is a citizen-led subcommittee, which is what we need in the community, because they'll provide more input and more communication to the residents. Like Deidre made some very valid points. She didn't know why the Armory closed. And I'm sure she's not the only person that doesn't know why it closed and why it's not operating. So to bring more transparency to the process, so it's not Commissioner Henderson, that is a community-led process, I think it's great.
So we're talking about getting it open and going and running?
So, yeah, to get it up and running so it can be operational. Yeah, that's what this subcommittee is about. So I would hope you will be a part of it.
I already signed up, but I just didn't know till I got here. I
Yeah.
walked in on the subcommittee, so I just want to know. Okay.
All right. So the other items, we need to move on, and we will put all of those items, we'll put a couple so we can have discussion, because that's a valid point. Not thinking about it, you try to put all this stuff on your agenda, but you need to be able to have more conversation, so that will not happen again. And that's the point we'll take. Is there any other pressing?
Yeah, the one I just left.
About recycling? If you come up with some, Commissioner Adams, we will definitely implement it.
Well, I'm asking, I mean, just to let him answer, if you care to share a little bit.
Go ahead. Basically, I'm going to be making a presentation to the state recycling group, requesting assistance for the city of Benton Harbor to address some of our problems that will also enable us to begin the invoicing process of working on doing some limited recycling. As I have stated to them, pretty much as I've said here, we all have to recognize, no matter what we're talking about doing, it doesn't matter whether we're talking about watering the trees that we planted up here, that we don't have any equipment to haul water to do, or anything else. We have, I think, 7 or 8 vacancies in the police department. A lot of what the police department don't do is because there's nobody to do it. You know, and the same thing with a lot of things, because we're digging out of this hole. Right now, Benton Harbor collects refuse from all of the residences. We also have to deal with a lot of stuff that's dumped in places that gets picked up and so forth. And we haul that to the closest landfill. Landfill's charge was $55 a ton to dispose of. Some places up around Grand Rapids are paying $29 and $39 a ton. The poorest city in the state is paying one of the highest rates in the state. What I'm saying to them is that before we can really engage the way we might like to recycle or not, we got to fix some of the basic problems. And we're asking them to help fund a transfer station, which will allow us to bring refuse in and compact it, also sort it if we want to do some recycling. To fund a heavy track loader, track-in loader that we can use to roll over and crush up a lot of this stuff, so that we're not hauling trucks loaded with airspace down the street because you got 2 couches and a table on there and whatnot, and the stuff sticking up. We crush this stuff. We're asking them to fund a tractor and a large open top loader where we can take and load this thing with all this trash. Instead of running the wheels off our garbage trucks running back and forth, we can load that stuff up in one big trailer and haul it to wherever we need to get the price that we need to get in order to make it affordable and make it reasonable. And that's basically what we're trying to do. And with establishing a transfer station, a place to bring in, process, and set up all of the refuse, to compact it, to crush it if need be. Also to start putting bins for separating some trash and so forth that might lend to recycling and so forth. So that's kind of what we're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. There are other components to it, but thank you.
Yep. The last thing that I want to do is talk about the meetings, the workshop. There's one on the 19th at Second Baptist. That's Commissioner Henry and Commissioner Seats. On October the 20th, Commissioner Clark Griffin and Commissioner Adams at Virginia Edwards Center. The Teen Center on the 25th, and the 26th, Commissioner Edwards and Singleton will be meeting at the library. So if you can make any of those are master planning meetings talking about some of the stuff we talked about. So it's especially getting input. So please invite people to come out. Those are just the start.
And I can forward that to anybody. That's an email from the rest. So we can, let me send
we gotta go.
Well, I just want to say, yeah, I know West Lestane, Michigan wanted to partner with the city before. His name, the director is Dan Supermaker. For about recycling.
Oh, no, this ball is rolling. It's not.
Commissioner Adams, that's just it.
But I just wanted, that's all I wanted to say. But I know they was talking about partnering with the city on the way.
Thank you guys for attending. Thank you guys for listening and giving input.
Good meeting, good job. Presentation.
Do you guys want the dates for the city planning?
Just send it to everybody.